Welcome to the Georgio Says podcast. Spilling the tea with Georgio Takanokis. If you love to keep up to date with all the latest pop culture news and celebrity gossip, then this is the podcast for you. Now, please welcome your host, Georgio Takanokis.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Georgio Says the podcast. And today's episode is going to kind of be all over the place, but it's mostly going to center around BravoCon because that just took place this past weekend. And as many of you know, I was there. I got to see a lot of you, which was amazing. And you guys were so sweet. But I want to talk about my experience a little bit more in depth. I did do a TikTok on it, but it was obviously a shorter form for that platform. But I planned on talking about it in more depth on this episode anyway. So I'm just going to give you the full download from my point of view. There's a lot of other creators that I got to meet there. So that was really nice. It's really just nice to see that many Bravo fanatics in one place. And, putting faces to people's social media handles is like, I don't know why that's so mind-blowing, but it's like, oh, that's what you look like. But nonetheless, it was, I thought, a well-done event. I did not go the full 3 days. I went on Saturday, but, all in all, I did see a lot of people on TikTok talking about how, there were some chaotic moments, but the only moment that I was getting downloads on, which was Friday, which I didn't go on Friday, I went on Saturday, was the Beverly Hills panel got pretty chaotic. There was pretty much a stampede and people were not feeling so safe, understandably so. Someone who follows me sent me a video from their POV of what it looked like, and it did look pretty crazy. I don't know if I would say it was Fire Festival. A lot of people were comparing that moment to like a Fire Festival. I don't think that was anywhere near what Fire Festival was like, but it was chaotic and probably not the safest thing. But gladly, no one that I'm aware of was seriously hurt or nothing terrible happened. But they definitely tightened up on Saturday when I went. It was, I believe, the only day that was completely sold out. But the only thing that I thought was probably a downfall was the lines for photo ops. So if you had a VIP ticket, there was a separate line, obviously, for those ticket holders versus like general admission. And there was, I would say 80% of the lines, the VIP line and the general admission line were almost neck and neck, which I don't think that holds value at that point, because then it's just like, well, you're just splitting the general admission line into two, essentially. It's not like you're not getting up there any quicker. Now, what I thought they should maybe think about doing next time is maybe scheduling VIP ticket holders to do photo ops at a separate time than general admission. Let general admission go first. Like do something different, because doing it the way they did it didn't allow for people that wanted to take photos with certain Bravo celebrities, because they were only up there for maybe 30 minutes at most. And some actually cut theirs short. So you might be waiting in line and be like maybe 5 or 6 people behind. And then that Bravo celebrity's done, then they're moving on. And then they would clear the line, and they cleared the line sometimes. I'll be honest. There was certain lines where I did see people camping out, because what people started to do was they would get in line for another Bravo celebrity, but knew that another one that they wanted to meet was coming on after. So they figured, if I get in line now, by the time I get up there, my Bravo celebrity will be there and I won't feel like I'm waiting as long. So there was a lot of those, what I would call hacks, but I didn't see all too much of like camping out. Now for the panels, that was a different story. That was even more chaotic. So if you didn't have a VIP pass, getting into the panel seemed like a nightmare, as well as the bathroom. The bathroom situation was talked about a lot, but I don't want this to be negative, because it wasn't a negative experience whatsoever. It's just these little things that I think are just naturally going to happen. Not everything's going to be perfect, but I would say about 90% of it was perfect, in the sense that they did a really solid job at organizing it where there was enough room for everyone to walk. There was enough animation going on. So if you weren't going to wait in long lines, there were so many things that you could interact with there. Bravo Land was so cool to see, like, just the history of Bravo and everything, and all the staples and the iconic moments. They really, really went all in, and everyone showed up. I mean, even people that initially weren't supposed to go were there. I I got to see and meet so many of the Bravo celebrities, and some I've met many times before, but it's just nice to see them all in a space where everyone's there for the same thing. So that was cool. And the drink bars were really well done. They had an Ultimate Girls Trip themed bar, and then they had a Below Deck themed bar. So it was just very cool. And yeah, I mean, the panels were done. The only thing I would say about the panels, I tried to go live on the first panel, the one that was with Chef Stuart O'Keefe and Amy Phillips, and they had Caroline Manzo, Cynthia. Gosh, I'm blanking on the other person. I think she was from Married to Medicine, but I couldn't remember. It was like the very first panel of the day. And it, even from me being in the space, it was challenging. The audio was not good, in the sense, like, if I was live, I could barely understand what they were saying on the mic. So let alone anyone that was on my live being able to understand. So I did that for a little bit and then realized, you guys are not even able to hear what I'm hearing, barely. So I tried to go live when I was just not in the panel rooms, just giving people perspective as to how it looked, what the vibe was. And yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely full of activities. There was not a moment where I was like, I mean, we got there probably at 9:15 in the morning, and we left at like 6, and then we went to dinner and then got ready to go to an after party. So, it was a full packed day. But everyone was sweet. Nobody was complaining about anybody's behavior or any of that. If anything, there was moments where, on some of the panels, where they were definitely, like, you could tell they're just trying to drum up the drama a little bit and intensify it, because either there's a season coming up, New Jersey, or there's something currently finishing up, Beverly Hills. So you had a lot of that, which I thought was very cool, because it felt like they were giving us a little bit more insight into certain things, and people got to ask questions. And it was a lot of info. There, like, everyone's there at the same time. It's like all happening at once. But I never felt bored. I didn't feel like there was a moment where I was like, okay, I've been here a few hours, I'm done with this whole thing. Like, it didn't feel like that at all. And usually I'm someone who, I get impatient after a while, especially at an event like that. If there's not enough stuff going on to keep me entertained, I kind of lose interest. And this just felt right. It felt like there was just enough to do. I did save all of the stuff that I wanted to interact with in terms of animation. So they had like a Project Runway intro thing. They had a Below Deck one. They had, obviously, the Real Housewives intro one, which everyone was doing that one for obvious reasons, because it was really, really cool. And then they had all these different things set up for you. So, like, my point earlier was, like, you may not have gotten to meet every single Bravo celebrity you may have wanted to, but there was so much to do that it was quite easy to actually run into them, though. So that's why that's another reason why I don't really buy into the photo op thing, because it's like, you'll most likely run into them at some point if you just play your cards right. But aside from that, BravoCon was amazing. I am very thankful to everyone who helped out with everything, like planning after parties, people that were, keeping all the creators in the loop for things. Just, it felt like a family. Like, it felt almost like a family reunion, even though you maybe didn't meet these people until that event, but nonetheless, I've met a lot of cool creators that I interact with all the time. So that was really, really special, and humbling at the same time, because, we all put in so much work. And although we may not all agree and have the same opinion about every single matter that happens, um, the one thing we do have in common is that we have a passion for this and we love what we do. There's not a moment that goes by that I don't think about what type of content I'm going to come up with next, what I should research next. Like, there's so much within this space, and I'm grateful to Bravo for even being around so that we as content creators can, divulge on the passion we have for it. Like, I have a passion for production and reality TV like nobody's business, but something about Bravo's reality TV situation just hits like nothing else. So it dawned on me while I was at BravoCon, like, wow, like, when I think back 10 years or 11, no, gosh, it's even more than that. It's like 16 years. Now I'm aging myself. But like, if I look back 15 years and my future self went back and told myself from 15 years ago, like, you're going to be doing Bravo content, and you're going to be at BravoCon, and you're going to get to meet all these cool people, I would have probably been like, okay, that's a joke. This is just, it is what it is. But to see it spiral the way it has, I think is so cool. And as you know, I know a lot of other creators who talk about Bravo don't just talk about Bravo. I like to say that I'm very much Bravo related. I don't cover other reality shows. I don't cover other pop culture news. I know that for me, my passion is Bravo, and it's not to say that I won't expand at some point, but I do have a strong, strong loyalty to Bravo Housewives in particular. If you follow me on TikTok, which a lot of you do, you know that I'm very niched in like this Real Housewives part of Bravo. I've always loved these shows. I love all the Bravo reality shows, and I don't cover all of them as much as I would like to. And that's mainly because I just don't have the time and capacity to do it in a way that would be, in my opinion, of any value. And so, but for Housewives, that was like what kind of sucked me into Bravo. So I've been loyal to those franchises, and even the ones that don't do well, they may have a bad season or they've got to revamp things. I'm still there. I'm always hopeful that things can turn around. But yeah, and shout out to all the creators that were throwing after parties, because that's nice. That's nice to do. It allows for fans to have that experience as well. And it's not easy throwing those things together. So especially if you're not from New York and you're planning it from afar. So shout out to all of you out there that were inviting us to your after parties and making everyone feel included, because I think that's the part that means the most, is when people feel seen and heard, as a fan. And there's so many people that they adore who they adore. But I will say this, and I did talk about this on another podcast I did earlier this week with Blake on his podcast, Blonde Hair Black Heart. You should go check that out. But Candy really amazed me, and not because I thought she wouldn't be great in that situation, but when she was at her booth, there was a stampede of women that wanted a picture with her. And it wasn't a photo op booth. It was just her like personal brand booth, right? And I was literally like shoulder to shoulder with her, because as she was trying to move her way out, because they're on time constraints, their schedules and everything, and they all have appointed security with them to kind of get them in and out quickly. But it was like we were literally shoulder to shoulder. That's how many people, like, I was trapped in with her at one point. And I could hear her security being like, okay, we've got to go now. And like telling the people, like, she's got to go, she's got to go, she's got to go. And Candy just was like, no, 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 hold on, because I need to take pictures with these ladies. They've been waiting a very long time and they've been very patient. And so that clicked for me. It was like, okay, this is why Candy is so successful. I mean, that's one of the elements, but that to me, like being able to make your fans see you in a way that makes them feel like you see them, that means the world to them. You could tell that those people were like so happy that she was staying a little bit longer just to squeeze it all in. And she did. She was good. She's a good selfie taker. She knows what she's doing, and not everyone does. So there's obviously a lot of times where people are like just getting weird angles because they're just, catching someone walk by. But nonetheless, shout out to Candy because she knows what she's doing. And I respect that because I know it's not easy being in that position. You can't take a picture with everyone. There's just too many people. But the fact that she could tell that there were certain individuals that were waiting a lot longer and people were cutting and people were pushing, but not too aggressively. But, people get excited. They want what they want and they want it now. So that was really cool. It was just nice to see them interacting with each other too. Like, I mean, other Bravo celebrities from other shows interacting. Cause that's, you always wonder, like, do you guys even, I mean, not everyone's going to know each other on all these shows, but this is the one time. It's like a big networking event. Almost like a family reunion for everyone. Bravo celebrities, the fans, the content creators, everyone involved. It's like one big family reunion and it's a 3-day thing. But I do think next year, I will go for the full 3 days, but I'm also manifesting that I get to host a panel or do something really cool with Bravo next year. So yeah, stay tuned for that. I will keep you guys posted on anything else that I forget throughout this episode that I wanted to talk about in terms of BravoCon. But I do want to touch on, there's a couple things I want to, this is why I said, like, episode's going to be kind of jam-packed with a lot of stuff. But what I will say is I didn't get a chance to recap Real Housewives of Potomac episode 2. I slightly touched on it on Instagram. But all in all, I'm not going to break down the full episode 2, guys, but there is one thing I do want to talk about because this really rubbed me the wrong way. Was there's a scene in episode 2 for Potomac where Giselle tells Candace she wants to talk to her. And so they start talking, and Giselle brings up this whole thing from last year's reunion where Chris, we did see that clip where Chris comes out and he's kind of complaining a little bit about the questions about Candace, and maybe that didn't make her look good. And, he didn't feel like he was made to look that great. So Giselle spun from that and said that he wanted to talk to her. And so she told him, yeah, we can go into my glam room, because in her mind, she was like, I thought my glam team was still in there and it wasn't that big of a deal. But she said when she got in the glam room, her glam team was not there. So it was just her and Chris. And she said she felt very uncomfortable. So instantly when someone says that and frames it around that, you instantly are thinking, did he make a pass at you? Did he hit on you? Like, what was going on there? But when you watch the scene, you see Candace look over at the camera guy like, are you kidding me? So she's telling this to Candace, and she's basically being like, he made me feel uncomfortable, and this is how I felt. And Candace was like, well, did he do something disrespectful? And she was like, no, he didn't hit on me. He didn't say anything crazy. It was just, I felt uncomfortable by it. And this is off the heels of Ashley talking to Giselle. I think it was Giselle. No, it wasn't Giselle. It was someone else she was talking to. I'm blanking. Robin's the one that told Giselle about it, though. But Ashley basically said that Chris sent her a DM at like 2 a.m, telling her to come to this rooftop bar situation that he works at. And she found that to be a little bit strange. Like, why are you DMing me at 2 a.m to come hang out? Like, where's your wife? And so with that, it's almost like Giselle's like wheels were spinning. She was like, oh, let me bring up this other thing that made me uncomfortable with Chris, and then we can make this about Chris. That's how it felt. And Candace instantly figured it out in the moment when she was talking to Giselle. And she got up mid-conversation. It was a very it was a real moment that typically they probably wouldn't show us. But now, since we're seeing more of this like fourth wall breaking, they show her grabbing her stuff and she asks to talk to the producer, Eric. Now, Eric is a producer on the Real Housewives of Potomac, and I believe he still works as Giselle's producer, but Candace wanted to talk to him, and then they show her basically calling Giselle out or production out for trying to make Chris look bad. And in that moment, I realized, wow, Giselle really, she does not care. She's willing to do whatever to keep a check, to keep her, her spot on the show. And look, I know not everyone's a fan of Candace and her behavior, but making those types of insinuations, in my opinion, is super dangerous, and it could be harmful to someone's marriage. Because imagine, it really depends on how they edit stuff. Luckily, they showed her talking to the producer about it, because it could have gone a different way. We've seen it happen in the past, but in the past, when we've seen it, there's been documented footage of shady behavior, like with Michael Darby. So I wrote a post that basically said it looks like we're just rotating out the guys. Like, we're just going to pick a new guy every other season to go after. I just find it to be not cool. And I felt for Candace, because it's you're not making this about her anymore. You're making this about her husband, and that could impact him differently. So it's just, I wish they would try to keep things as much about the actual women on the show than trying to go and pull people's husbands into it, or people's children, or things that are not really a part of the show. Yes, Chris is a part of the show because he's married to Candace and that's part of her life. But does he need to be a direct storyline? Now, if he's doing something like Michael Darby did, and it's something that's out on the blogs, and someone like me's talking about it, then yes, bring it up on the show. Absolutely, because that's understandable. But if nothing really happened, it just felt like they were fishing for something to try to make him look bad. Almost like if they insinuated it enough, they could cut it up and make a narrative out of it. And so I'm happy that Candace stood up for herself in that moment. So we'll continue watching, because Candace tweeted out a lot of stuff. And actually, I'm going to read you her tweets, because I thought it was she really did a good job. I know a lot of times she goes off the hinges and she can behave in a way that, in my opinion, deflects from what her message actually is, because people are so focused on her behavior. But it's clear that she's not falling into those same traps, at least not yet. I'm not saying she's not going to have a freak out moment on the show. Okay, so her first tweet goes, I haven't said anything yet, mostly because I've been in the land of Bravo having the time of my life, talking about BravoCon. But Real Housewives of Potomac episode 2 has come and gone. The first and most relevant thing I can say is that it's hard to say anything at all, because I support women, believe women, and I support me too. She continues with, I can't tell a woman how to feel about a man's presence in her orbit. We are entitled to our feelings, and they should never be diminished or questioned. It's why the most appalling part about this episode, and those that will play after, is watching a feral gutter snipe attempt to upend and dismantle these pillars that women have worked so hard to establish, all in the name of what? All in the name of entertainment? Where have we landed? How exactly are we here? You are not a victim. What you are is a calculated slab of misery, creating the next generation of snipes through the fine example your children have to mirror. We are all in danger. Which I thought she did a really good job of expressing herself, because listen, the thing is, Giselle is messy, okay? And we love messiness. We love a messy housewife, okay? But there's boundaries to this shit. You cannot, I mean, she can do whatever she wants. She clearly did it. But I find it to be disturbing when someone can just do that to someone's husband when there's no merit. It'd be one thing if he made a pass at her, if he flirted with her, like, or did something crazy. Yes, fine. And yes, I agree with Candace. She's allowed to feel the way she feels. However, did that need to be on camera? Why are you waiting until now to bring it up? Why is that your only go at something, is to create this narrative? So it seems like it continues, obviously, because this is one of the storylines on this show for this season. So I will continue to watch. I hope you guys are, because it's going to be good. Potomac delivers. Love some of the ladies or hate them, they deliver and they bring it. So that was that. I did recap the reunion on TikTok, but part one wasn't really all the juiciness. We were just getting kind of started. Tonight's part two. So in my opinion, I think what's going to happen is we're going to get Kathy towards the end of part two, and part three will be about Kathy and Rinna. That's my theory. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. They could throw Kathy in part two, but I feel like they'll stretch it out. So I'm really excited to see what happens on tonight's episode. And yeah, so lots going on there. But a lot of the things that came out of BravoCon with a lot of the panels, which is interesting to me, is during a lot of these segments and panels and tapings for Watch What Happens Live, there was one segment where they were asking different housewives questions, and there was a question that came up for Erica, and the question was, which Bravo celebrity couple do you think is next to be like divorced or splitting or whatever? And she got up and she walked up to the front of the stage and she said PK and Dorit, and then walked back, and everyone lost their minds because that they're all like tight knit. But I had a theory that this was just a storyline setup for next season. And a lot of people made some good points, like, well, how would they know what questions would be asked? And listen, I don't think that either way, like, I think she would have found a way to start something with Dorit. I don't really think, like, I think they're all in on it. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, last season, Dorit was allegedly on the chopping block. Then her house was robbed the night before filming started for season 12, which instantly gave her diamond back, because why wouldn't they do that? That's huge, right? So now with things the way that they are in Beverly Hills, relationships are strained. It seems like Fox Force 4 is kind of being dismantled, which a lot of people are excited to see. But also, how interesting would it be if the dynamics shifted? I see a lot of people like, where is season 7 Dorit? Where is she? You know what I mean? Because I think that because they've all gelled together, they all protect each other. There's not a lot of conflict between those ladies because they protect each other's. They probably know a lot of stuff. So that's part of it too. But I still think this has something to do with trying to get a storyline going that's interesting enough that people will want to tune in for. I mean, of course, if we come to find out there's a feud or a back and forth going on with Erica and Dorit and PK, then you don't think people are going to watch that? Of course they will. They're smart cookies. They're smart ladies. They all know what they're doing. Yeah, it's produced, but you know what? We need a shift. We can't keep focusing on just picking one housewife that's not a part of the Fox Force 4 and going after them every season. It's getting old. So, and I did see also that Kathy commented and said that if the cast stays the way that it is, that she wouldn't be returning. But I'm not so sure about that, because after BravoCon and seeing that it was pretty much Kathy's BravoCon, because everything that she was a part of, even that Watch What Happens Live Legends Ball, when they just introduced Kathy, the entire crowd chanted her name for like a few minutes. Okay. So she's like, if she walks away, it's gonna be sad for a lot of people. So I don't know. It'll be interesting though, because I think she might have to wait and see how the reunion plays out. But she did say a lot while she was at BravoCon about the situation, more than I thought she would. Um, but yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited. There's also trailers that dropped during BravoCon. Miami season 5. I mean, I, I don't know why they make us wait so long. December 8th just feels like so far away, even though it's not, because we're almost in November now. But it's good. It's obviously going to center around Lisa Hochstein and her divorce. But what a lot of people were questioning was like, are we going to see them together and then it splits, or is it just going to jump right into like their split already? And what people don't realize is that they were already filming a good way through before this whole situation happened with Lenny leaving and all that. So we will see this play out for sure. We will see them probably in the very beginning of the episode. Kind of, they'll probably show us more of those awkward interactions that they showed us last season that made us feel like, oh, this is cringy. But then we'll see the divorce play out. And the trailer is really good. Really good. I highly recommend. If you are not into Miami or you didn't want to get back into it, you are missing out. We also got the trailer for Ultimate Girls Trip 3, which is in Thailand, and that looks really good too. I didn't know when they initially had the cast announced for it. I wasn't sure, like, I don't know how good this will be, but that trailer was amazing. Like, I want it out now, and we don't have a date for it yet, but I believe it'll come out in 2023. New Jersey's new season will come out in 2023, and then obviously we got to meet the Real Housewives of New York, the reboot, the new cast for that. And I have to say, I know that there's a strong opposition to basically just revamping the entire cast, because a lot of people's point was, don't call this season, what is it, 14? Don't call it season 14 because this isn't even, there's not one original cast member. But I disagree with that. The franchise is in its 14th season. We're not going to restart the clock and go back to season 1 because there's a whole new cast. Because I'll tell you this, there's a lot of times when, they switch out a lot of the cast members to the point where there's only one original housewife on the cast left. So, like, in my mind, it really doesn't matter. But I will say that the ladies they picked are very relevant. I know a lot of people want that old school New York cast back, like, but that's why we have Legacy. Now, there wasn't any real updates on Legacy because I think honestly they're still trying to pin it down. But there was, I would say, half and half. There was half that were like, absolutely, this is exciting, this is relevant, I can get into this. The people that were on the cast, a lot of people were familiar. If you're in the influencer or digital space or fashion space or any of that, you recognized some of these ladies. So it was nice. But then once it was announced, I'm scrolling on TikTok and I see, and I'm going to say her handle because I want to make sure I give her proper credit, but Adamantly Adler on TikTok came out. She didn't say which housewife it was for obvious reasons, but she said that she was really stunned to see that the person that she was an intern for 10 years ago, who treated her horribly and didn't even pay her last paycheck. I mean, guys, her story, she did like a 5-part series. So I highly recommend going and checking it out. Some of the stuff I'm like, wow, how is this even legal? But that's a whole other story. But the gist of it was, she was upset because this lady basically manipulated and gaslit her and paid her like $125 a week. And she was working like more than 40 hours a week. And she had just moved to New York. So imagine if you've ever lived in New York. My partner and I lived in New York for almost 4 years. There's no way you spend $125 on an appetizer and like a drink at like a hole in the wall restaurant in New York. That's not going to pay any rent. I don't care where you live. Even if you're renting a room, your whole month's salary might cover just your rent. So that means you're not eating, you're not doing. So I felt for this girl just from that, hearing that is probably very stressful, and it did do a lot to her mental health negatively. But she didn't call the housewife out. She gave a lot of detail to the point. So I yesterday went and did some digging, and I went backwards 10 years because, again, she said she worked for this housewife 10 years ago, and started digging around. And she's talking about this housewife had a handbag line. But then when I'm doing the backgrounds on all these ladies, I don't see anything popping out specifically about any of them having a handbag line. So I was like, this is odd. So I'm just going down a rabbit hole at this point, and I find a YouTube video of, her name's Erin Dana Leachy, and I believe back then she went by Erin Dana, and that was the name of her handbag line, Erin Dana Bags. And the whole thing was, she's very much into like design and home design, all this stuff. So she kind of used that background to design handbags, which some of them were actually cute. I don't believe that she still sells them, but it was clear at that moment. I was like, oh, this is not confirmed, but all the roads lead back to Erin in terms of who this intern could have been talking about. So it's just interesting. The show just started filming today. And we have this come out. So, take that for what it is. We only have one side of the story, and nothing is, confirmed, but I don't believe that this girl would just come out with that much. I mean, she did like a 5-part series, and she was pretty detailed. She dropped a lot of details. She didn't drop the names, but she dropped a lot of hints. So it was almost like she was trying to dangle carrots and point you on the right path to figuring out who it was. Smart cookie. But yeah, so I'm not like through the roof excited for New York, but I'm excited that this cast seems like the right start. Now we just got to see what their personalities are like and how they interact, because sometimes when you just throw a bunch of women together and there's no authentic relationships behind the camera, it can feel and seem very overproduced and forced. So I'm a little bit on edge with that, because I hope that that's not what we're going to get. I hope that we get something that's super relatable, something that's relevant to today. And I know that Legacy will come right after that, and they'll figure it out. I think it will be the best of both worlds. I think that if you want that old school New York feeling of what it was before, then you'll watch Legacy. If you want a new, more relevant cast that, they are trying to get it. This is my thing too. I understand people don't like change. I don't like change either. I hate it. I like staying in my comfort zone. I like knowing what's coming ahead. I like knowing what's happening. But sometimes you have to pivot and you have to shift. They're clearly looking for a younger demographic. There is a younger demographic that's invested in these shows already. So why not cater to them? I get it. I do. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but from just the looking at it from afar, it makes sense. It makes sense. So we'll see. We're supposed to get the season in 2023 at some point. So this year's almost done. So we only really have a couple months, and they probably are going to film for at least the next 3. So we might get it right in the new year, which would be great. I'm ready for New York, even if it's not the old cast. Because like I said, there was a lot of problems. And even that last season, that Real Housewives of New York, nobody really watched it. It was horrible. It was horrible. So it's time to reboot, try something different, and I'm here for it. What else happened? What else is going on in Bravo world right now? Oh, well, let's talk about Camille Grammer, because I just talked about her this morning. My friend Camille, love you, Camille. Can you imagine? I still have not asked her to come on my podcast. It's not for any reason. I'm obviously going to. It's just I just need to figure out what's a good time. I'm thinking maybe when Beverly Hills is over so we can really dish about stuff. She recently had a clapback moment on Twitter. Kyle was on last Wednesday's episode of Watch What Happens Live following the part 1 reunion for Beverly Hills, and Andy was reading a tweet that Camille wrote, and he read out her Twitter handle, which is the real Camille G. And Kyle said, "Isn't that an oxymoron?" And then, of course, Camille, and this is why I love her, she's so good at clapping back, but there's just a way that she does it. Now, I know that there's some things that she does, she takes a little too left, but that's minuscule in comparison. Like, she's solid. She's solid. And my point was, well, wait, let me just tell you the clapback. So the clapback was she posted, well, since, you know, my Twitter handle's an oxymoron, who's the real Kyle Richards, something to that effect. And then she had 3 different pictures, one much older picture of Kyle, one that was sort of in the middle, and then what Kyle looks like today. Basically insinuating like which one's the real Kyle. That's the real oxymoron. And people, I don't know why, people were just like, oh, that was taking it too far, Camille. You went for her looks. That's not very graceful. And it's like, I don't think she meant it to be graceful, though. Kyle's taking a lot of jabs at her. And also, if in season 1 of Beverly Hills, if Kyle and Camille did not have that feud, that whole insecure situation, that didn't happen, I guarantee you that Beverly Hills would have flopped because there was nothing else going on other than Kyle calling her sister's alcoholism out on season finale, but that was the season finale. So, and even that reunion was mainly about, I mean, at that time, Camille was on the cover of tabloids being called the most hated housewife. So, like, she knows what she's doing. They brought her back multiple times. I've spoken to Camille about this on the side. Like, she says she doesn't want to come back. I'm begging for her to come back. I think she's needed. And she doesn't have to come back full time. Bring her on as a friend. Let her do her thing. I also think we need to bring Brandy back. We need some other people that are not attached to these cliques. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I know Camille's my friend and I'm going to vouch for her, but I'm still biased. I can call out Camille if she does something that is not in good taste. But I feel like, you know, this is what we need more of, just these like little moments. And Camille can dish it and take it. So I think that makes for a good housewife, in my opinion. Don't shoot the messenger. But also, there's been some talks that maybe Denise is trying to get her foot back in the door. So that could be interesting too. So, you know, I don't know. I heard someone say that they think it would be good to have Teddy come back. Listen, I know I shit on Teddy a lot. I don't hate the girl. And as a matter of fact, I'm sending her thoughts and well wishes because right now she's dealing with some skin cancer issues with melanoma and she's getting things cut out. It's a very scary time. It's a scary thing. So I'm not a monster. Like, she's annoying. I don't hate her. But do I want her back on the show? I don't know. It really depends on the dynamics. If they're going to bring her back so that she can just be Kyle's mouthpiece again, no, you know. But if it's going to be a situation where Rinna and Kyle's relationship is strained and Dorit and Eric are having their little situation, it might be nice to see where Teddy stands and all that because she's friends with all of them. So that could be interesting. So I'm not throwing it completely out the window. She's not my first pick. But if these other situations are currently playing out, then yeah, that would be interesting to me. I do want to see more just real, genuine conflict resolution. I'm tired of like blowing up one storyline or 2 storylines or going after one housewife. It's getting old. Also, Rinna, I got Birdie who told me that Rinna felt like I went too hard on her this season. And, you know, I respect Rinna tremendously. I've been a Rinna fan before she was on Housewives. So I was really excited when she came on Beverly Hills because I was like, why isn't she on this already? This is like her thing. And so no, I have a ton of love for Rinna. And but I didn't like her behavior this season in particular, and that's okay, but I don't hate her. I don't want her necessarily fired. Not that I think that they're going to fire her. If anything, it would be her decision to step away for whatever reason she decides to step away. But I think the show needs to keep her because every show needs a villain. But I do think we need to kind of let off the gas a little bit and maybe let someone else kind of play in that sandbox a little bit more, because I feel like the heat has gotten too hot for her. I mean, she got booed at BravoCon, which I ultimately think she likes. She likes the attention nonetheless, negative or positive. But then you have all these people that are like, well, she blocked me and I didn't say anything nasty about her. It's not about that. I think for her, it was just like she needed to separate herself completely from all of that. She clearly looks and talks to different content creators, and she needed to keep her space safe. It was right before the reunion was going to be filmed, so I get it. But all I'm going to say is, Rinna, if you hear this, it's not personal. It's not personal, baby. I love you still. I want you to come back on the show. I want you to work things out, but I want you to not behave like you did on season 12. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah, that's that. What else is going on, guys? I don't know. But you know what? It's probably a good way to end this episode because it was pretty jam-packed. I kind of jumped all over the place, so I do apologize. If you're a first-time listener, they're not all like this. It's just there was a lot going on this last weekend and so much content and so much tea came out of it. So I just wanted to kind of bring you guys what stood out to me and what I thought was really cool. But before I go, I do want to remind everyone of a couple things. I am going to be reformatting my Patreon. I haven't been showing it any love. I do apologize. It's been a lot going on, but I'm going to streamline it. I don't think I'm going to have two different tiers anymore. So I'm going to figure out a way to just make it, and I'm thinking about even just dropping the price a little bit too, just to make it easier on everyone, because I'm still figuring the platform out. I'm still growing my YouTube channel. Shout out to all my new subscribers on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But what I will leave you with, and I do apologize in advance, is because of the way that I run all of my platforms. So for my podcast, I want to, going forward, so this episode will be available on YouTube, but going forward, I believe I'm going to be keeping my podcast off of YouTube and keeping it on the platforms like Spotify and all the other platforms you get your podcasts on, just because I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel and I'm just thinking out loud here, but I feel like it's not necessary. And so I feel like every piece of content should have its own home, in my opinion. I know other creators kind of throw everything on their YouTube channel. I just want to streamline it into more of an expanded version of my TikTok. But I don't necessarily feel like my podcast fits in on that platform at this point. But you never know. I might change my mind. I might throw. Now, I want to clarify, this is because of the video version of this podcast. So a lot of you listen to just the audio version. The video version is available on Spotify. I always upload the video on Spotify. So if you have Spotify, you'll be able to watch it. But for the people that just hear the audio, it won't make a difference because you'll listen to it however you listen to your podcast. But, I'm going to try that out and see how that works. You guys give me feedback all the time, what's working, what's not. So I really appreciate that. And until next week, guys, I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye.